Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be with you all this afternoon, and we're especially grateful to have all of this group of young people, these high school friends with us, and thank you guys for making a point of being here. This is a very important, I think a very important historical time that we get to hear from Bill Gaither. And Bill, thanks for being here on our campus. Thanks for being back at Baylor. It's so nice to be back with you again.
Good to be with you.
The first, I'm not going to introduce you. We know who you are, and we are us. So no need for introductions. The first question I want to ask you is, how are you doing, and what are you doing these days? How are you spending your time?
You know, from the beginning, when Gloria and I first got married in 1962, I married her because I met her at the high school where we were both teaching English. She was teaching English and French. She had 3 majors, in fact, English, French, and sociology. And she graduated with honors and cum laude and all of that. I graduated, thank the Lord, and got out of the place. And so, but we were still teaching. And I had done some writing, and because of the ages here, I can imagine one of the first things you had to do back then, if you wanted to do something, was find a way to support it. And so, for 10 years, I taught school and in the public school and taught English. And I never gave up my love for music or writing songs. Our songs weren't that well known yet. But after 10 years, our night job overtook our day job. And I can remember when the phone started ringing more and more and more. Now it's, I suppose, email and text and everything else. But the phone started ringing. And very early in our marriage, I think I said, and I didn't say this out loud, but I think I said, either that phone is going to control our lives and invitations are going to control our lives, or we're going to control it through the help of the Lord. And I think one of the hardest things to do in life is to know when to let go, when to hold on to something that you need to hold on to, and when to let go. And very quickly, we came to the conclusion there was no way that we were going to be able to go every time there was an invitation. Then at that point, you have to say, okay, how do I manage the time? I love the word stewardship. Most of the time when pastors talk about stewardship, obviously, sooner or later it's going to be money. But the stewardship of your time is so, so important, especially if you got kids and you want to raise a family, even doing good things to the excess. And that's hard to figure out. So, Randall, to answer your question, what are you doing these days? I don't think that we're not doing quite what we were doing 30, 40 years ago, but we just do enough to where we say we've got to make some sense out of these, quote, golden years. Gloria and I have been married for 60 years now, and this is a good time. The pandemic taught us one thing. If you got to be quarantined with somebody, you might as well be in there with your best friend. Let me also, and Randall, you'll have to pull me in, okay?
Okay.
But let me also say this too. Mark Lowry often kids me about, quote unquote, marrying a lyricist. You can hire a lyricist, okay? It has been interesting in our lives in hindsight. I met her, we started dating, and going out to lunch at the school where we were both teaching. And little by little, found out, hey, we got a lot of stuff in common. Probably starting with faith, with our same interest in faith. But we were both poets. And when I say poets, I don't mean the roses are red, violets are blue. I mean, we're both very sensitive people who would come into a room and look at the folks who are in the room and say, now, who are these folks? What are these folks thinking about me right now, or what's going on right now? So all of those things pulled us together. The lyrics was really a bonus. I mean, how fortunate can you be to be married to somebody like Gloria, who can put lyrics together, and you'll be singing some of those tonight in Alleluia, even the copy. And I fell in love with that also in her heart. So I'm saying all of this to warn you against professional marriages. If you kids in here thinking she'd make a great piano player for me, for whatever I'm doing. That's a bad reason to get married. I got to tell you that.
Kind of taking that in a little bit of a different direction. You all have lived, as you've said, a long life, 60 years of marriage and a whole career and more together. What are 2 or 3 turning points, like incidents, times where this incident or this particular situation turned the tide for us or made the difference or set the course maybe in a different direction?
Yeah. I think the big thing well, in the first place, here were 2 artistic types with moods like every artistic type is sitting in this place. And you're under the same roof. And now, if you work at an office with an artistic type, you can come home at night and get away from it. But if you're married, you can never get away from it, you know. And I think when I look back, I think there are 2 things that cause friction in our marriage, and I'm always wanting to be careful when I talk about this, because I feel like Ken Davis. He was speaking one time saying that everybody's going to have conflict, everybody's going to have arguments, and this old character came up to him afterwards and said, "My wife and I have been married for 65 years, and we've never had an argument." To which Ken Davis said, "If you've been married 65 years and never had an argument, one of you is dead." And I think that's especially true with our artistic types. By the way, if my talking is a little bit funny, a week from this Monday, I am going to get my permanent tooth to fit into the implant that he put in 3 months ago. But in the meantime, you have to wear a slipper, which is what I got on, to hold the one tooth in front, which is okay, except when you talk and try to get S's out. It's very difficult for a gospel singer because a lot of our songs are about Jesus, and Jesus. There's somebody is a little bit tough. Did I answer the question, or
let's restate it.
Okay, let's restate the question.
Yeah. What about like in your career, in your ministry? What are some breaks or some particular times where this happened and then this next stage happened? Turning points are pivotal times of your career and your life together.
Right after high school, I tried, because none of our people went to college, and so I tried to do music professionally with 3 other guys. A good thing happened. We starved to death. Nobody wanted to hear what we had to do. And it wasn't a lot of fun to go into the mirror and say, "You can play," but really your playing's not that great, you know. I mean, to actually do it. You can sing, but your singing is not that great. In fact, I got a good friend, he's passed away. I was pitching him a tune that Gloria and I had just written, and I was playing on a piano, and he said, "Bill, I've never heard anybody play as long as you have played and improve as little as you have improved." You know. So I had to look at all of that and be honest on what my skills were, and I came back to Anderson and majored in English and taught English. Minored in music, loved it. That was easy to get the grades in music, but it was a lot tougher. A lot tougher. So from the very beginning, we had to say, back to the phone ringing, we've got to set up some priorities. And we did this. If I were to write the story of our lives, our big arguments came from priorities. Why did you say yes to this? More than that, why did you include me in the yes, you know? And why in the world are we doing this? And secondly, how we're raising the kids. If we could have had an easy path on those two things, we'd have been home free. Mm-hmm. But we didn't, and we had to work it out. So for the first 10 years, I taught in the public school. Gloria taught for 3 years. And then we started writing these songs. How many songwriters are there in here? Good. Not as many as I would think. And unlike my voice and unlike my piano playing, I looked at some of the early things and I said, I think these are pretty good. And that's really tough when you try to get songs to singers. When we wrote He Touched Me in '62, the first person I sent it to was George Beverly Shea with the Billy Graham organization. And sure enough, 10 years later, Bev Shea recorded He Touched Me, but he didn't record it, because he didn't know who I was and how to get your music in front of people. But when that started happening, and the business side of what we were doing, how to control that started happening, that's a whole nother ball game on a marriage and raising young children and all of that. And that needs to be done carefully. And there have been some God things along our way. And one of the things you're doing tonight was performing tonight, Alleluia, is a God thing. But when the song started happening, how many of you people remember what sheet music looked like? Raise your hands. In the early 60s, our publishing company was basically based on a 9x12 sheet music. Even had my happy picture on some of those early ones. So when we had the first start to say, okay, how do we control this and how do we make it make sense? And when I say that, I don't want you to think I'm leaving the Lord out of these decision makers, but he has to work through human beings, to get it done. So the whole phenomenon of these two school teachers, let me tell you a story about Texas. We had a friend who wanted to schedule, I'm serious, he was doing the Rolling Stones tour stuff. So he went to Fort Worth to the guy who ran the arena. It seated 14,000 people, and wanted to bring the Rolling Stones in there. And of course, that's no problem. The manager said we'd be happy to do it. But he said this, and he got back to me. This was in 1969, 1970. He said, there are only two people who fill this Coliseum, 14,000. So one of them is Elvis Presley, and the other is two school teachers from Indiana. Says the craziest thing you ever saw. Said they have a bass and a piano, and they tell the people, sing along with it. We just wrote this, something beautiful, something beautiful, something good, something good. That was really interesting to him, and I look back, very interesting to me. So the whole phenomenon of these two school teachers who, by our own profession, would say, we weren't the greatest singers. I've always had a very good singer in the group to help do the heavy lifting. And my brother was the first one. Then later on, Gary McSpadden, and Michael English and some other pretty amazing singers.
Another possible question, we had Gloria here on our campus a few years ago as well. And one of the things that she mentioned was that she didn't really sign up for this this singing career, and she didn't consider herself a singer. That she was a scholar, she was a teacher. How did I know you can't speak just for her, but how did you, I think it's important that a lot of us might think, we don't end up doing what we thought we were going to do, and life goes so many different directions, and how did that work out for you all in your lives? I mean, you signed up and loved that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our first performing group was my brother and Gloria and myself. No, it was my sister. And my sister quit and to get married and had a baby. And so we tried a couple good singers. I mean, they could belt and make things happen. And I want you to hold on to this story because I think it's important. And it wasn't working. I mean, any of you who have been in front of a crowd knows when it ain't working. Okay. The beginning of a good communicator is knowing when he's not communicating. I'm serious. And we've all heard preachers who nobody told them, hey, this seemingly is not really ringing any bells with anybody. So we'd hired a couple of good singers. I know the word anointing is overused, and the whole experiential thing is overused. But I can remember telling Gloria, honey, you're going to have to sing with us. She said, I don't know if she called me honey or not, but she said, I'm not a singer. To which I said, yeah, I know that, and you know that, but you're pretty and you're my wife, and you really talk beautifully when you talk. So it was interesting, and this is very simple, but I can remember the first concert that we gave in the church with Gloria. And we were very limited. I even wrote a couple songs with a 5-note range because her range was so limited. It was a song, I believe, I believe, I believe, why should I worry or fret? It's a simple song that she could do and a couple more. And the first night we did the program, I'll try to shorten this down. It's amazing what happened. After a couple, 3 songs, I said, honey, you want to pray? And she did. And after she prayed, it didn't make any difference whether she sang, what she did, you know. It was just, I mean, it's what I call a God thing. And you can't explain why it happens. It just happened. And it didn't happen overnight, but after 2 or 3 years, we were singing to 14,000 people in the Fort Worth Coliseum. I call those God things and God moments, and He blessed that. And that will lead me, anytime you want to talk about Alleluia, we can talk about that too.
Yeah, we'll come to it in a second. Yeah, life couldn't have always been easy for you guys. What would be a very difficult time in your life, in your career, and how did you move through it? One of those sort of things where I don't know where we're going to go with this, how we're going to surpass this. Or,
I think at that point, and tough times will come, but you got to get a focus, and you got to stay on the focus. On many other things, my focus isn't that good, but when it came to music and what could really happen in music when you get people together, and I think at that point you just have to stay on the focus. And also, here again, there are these 2 people, artistic people under this roof trying to make this happen. There are days when we didn't like each other, but we were still committed to the Lord. You know, there were days we probably didn't like each other, but we never doubted our love for each other. You know, and 61 years later, I said that one night, some old guy said, that's nothing. I've been married 67 years, and people clapped. He said, to 5 different women. And so I said, multiples don't count in this. You know. And at that point, I think you have to go back to commitments and what we're going to. There is tension in ministry, whether or not the music director is married to the pastor or whatever. I mean, relationships are not easy at the very, very best. You better understand grace, and not only vertical grace, right, but horizontal grace. Because if you don't, Steve Bach sitting here in the front row, his dad and me and I and Gloria were in business together for many, many years. And I couldn't have been involved with a nicer guy, a good person who lived it out on a daily basis.
What do you consider your most well-known 2 or 3 songs? What's the top of the well-known? And I'm going to ask a couple other of those kind of questions.
And I see quite a few young kids here tonight, this afternoon. And I feel like Larry Gatlin tonight, he was playing on the Opry. Of course, the Gatlin brothers are from Texas, but they had a major career about 30, 40 years ago. Larry said, how many of you people are over 40? Clap. And they clap. How many of you people under 40? Clap. And they clap. And Larry said, would you people over 40 tell these people under 40 how important we used to be? Is that a great line? Because it's really interesting, I guess because I've been around so long, kids will talk about music styles and contemporary. And I often say to them, I know it's hard to believe, but at one time we were, quote unquote, contemporary. And the only thing, the one thing I've learned about contemporary is very temporary. And let me throw this out. Especially is when it comes to the shelf life of new songs. It's also happening in the secular field, in the country field. The shelf life is not as long, as it used to be. And my big concern with the current praise and worship leaders are they don't sing they're good songs that have come out 2 or 3 years ago, but they're already 2 or 3 years old, and we're off to something else. When you get a good one, ride that horse as long as you can ride it. Because, in worship, part of worship now is we have to teach a new song. But if there's something that is saying it that was written just a year or 2 ago, don't put it on the shelf that quickly. My nephew, pastors or music director in church, he called me about a song about 4 or 5 years ago. He said, man, it was very, very... It was just impacting our people, and we sang it for. What he was saying was, we truly worshipped with that song for 10 or 15 minutes. So a year or 2 later, I saw him somewhere, and I said, "You still? How's that song going?" We haven't sung it for a while. To which I said, "Shame on you, shame on you." I think the song was "Good, Good Father." When I heard that, I said, "What a great, great song!" That needs to. I always pick up every hymnal when I come in and say, okay, how many songs did we get in this particular version? And this maybe go back to your question about the better known songs. Mm-hmm. Okay. See, sooner or later I'll get back to it. So.
I was beginning to wonder.
Yeah. I was going to do a speech one night, and I said, "Man, this topic is so long. I don't even know where to start." Some guy in the back said, "Start near the end." Okay. What's the question?
Best, most,
okay.
Okay. Loved song, most popular songs.
And we get that question a lot, and sometimes it's, did I go off? Am I back? Am I back? It was a wonderful trip. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a house phone, so I must have turned. They have wired me.
You're okay now.
There, I'm back. There, I'm back. What was the question?
The best known songs.
Look at your neighbor and say, "Pray for old Bill," would you? The best known of our songs are probably "He Touched Me" and "Because He Lives." Jesus, there's something about that name. is still sung a lot. But in looking at the hymnal, if any writer is fortunate enough to get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you're very, very fortunate. We all say, Fanny Crosby, the great hymn writer. You name 4 or 5, we still sing. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing it from a songwriter's perspective. Boy, when you can write something that will stick to the wall and can be as meaningful to the next generation and the next generation. So, because he lives, somebody even said it's been translated in so many languages. There was a supermarket in Brazil that they were all singing this. I don't know if they had a track on or something. We've been to Brazil, and they do happen to like our music. So that one's been translated so much. And He Touched Me has been around. Something about the name. We did a kid's song about 40, 50 years ago. I am a promise. Mm-hmm. I am a possibility. I am a promise. With a capital P. I am a great big bundle of potentiality. And if God's voice, and I am trying to make the right choices, I am a promise to be anything He wants me to be. And it's fun because that song is still done by churches with their kids. So that is fun. And then the Word Record Company, which started here in Waco, Texas, by the way, wanted us to write with Richard Smallwood, who is a big writer in the black community. He wrote the, what's a praise tune? The Ultimate Praise. What's it?
Total Praise.
Total Praise. I love that song. He wrote that, and I can't think of the other one, but it was big. But so they said, would you write with Richard? I said, love to write with Richard Smallwood. So we met at this is a true story. We met at the company in their writing room, and he said, I got to catch a plane in 30 minutes. I said, well, let's go to work. So he said, do you have any ideas? Or I asked him, he said, no. I said, I got this phrase out of a book, Jesus, you're the center of my joy. And he said, well, let's play with it. So we did. Jesus, you're the center of my joy. And then we just go, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Jesus, you're the center. And he said, now what about the da-da-das? And I said, I know a lady in Alexandria, Indiana that could do that real well. So and that was in 1988, and in 99 that won the Black Gospel Song of the Year, the Stellar Award. And Gloria and I went to the Apollo Theater in New York. We thought we were in high cotton there. There were a lot of heavy hitters there.
What is your favorite of your work, or yours and Gloria's work? What speaks to your heart and your soul?
It varies from time to time, just where it might happen. In fact, we just written a new song I think is important because for whatever reason, and the church, has gone through politically in the last 3 or 4, 5 years, a lot of worry about the nation, where the nation's going, and they ask me from time to time, right? And Sonia Isaacs, when they said, what do you think about what's going on? I said, it's bad, but it's always been bad. If you'll check history, there's never been a real quiet time. There's always some crazy thing that's happening. But the good news of the gospel is this. We are called to be yeast, salt, and light. Probably the most important song you ever learned in Sunday school is This Little Light of Mine. Sing it. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. So put your gun down, put your sword down, put your club down, because you're not going to beat a hole in the darkness. I might even say, put your mouth away. Talk less and shine, shine, shine where you are by what you do. So we got all excited. And Woody Wright is a good young writer. This up with me. We need to write this in the song. The brighter the night, no, the darker the night, the brighter the light, the darker the night, the brighter. And Todd, do your line.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
So you asked me, what's my favorite song right now? It's fun to sing that, every night. I don't care where we go. And then if I would go back historically, I might choose a song that not a lot of people have learned or know. We wrote a song one time called, I believe, help thou my unbelief. I take the finite risk of trusting like a child. I believe, help thou my unbelief. I walk into the unknown, trusting all the while. I long so much to feel the warmth that others seem to know. But should I never feel a thing? Did you get that? I claim him even so. Even though it's singing with me. I believe, help thou my unbelief. I walk into the unknown. I walk into the unknown, trusting all the while. And when you write, you hope they would all catch on. But whether they do or not, the important thing, if you're a writer, is to get it out and see what God can do with it. Okay, Randall.
Yes, sir. We're going to be singing Alleluia tonight, or a group is. Yeah. Tell us about that work and how it came to be. How do you place it historically now? Right. What difference did it make in your life and career?
It was one of those God things, We had been doing our trio concert. There was an arranger in Nashville. He did a lot of our early stuff. And before I say that, let me say this. You know what I am on my very best day? I am a turtle on a fence post. You know what a turtle on a fence post is? What it means? He didn't get there by himself. Okay, he had some help. So Gloria and I were doing these simple little songs, Gentle Ship. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't want to play the guitar, but we were doing those, and Ron came to several concerts, and our friend Bob McKenzie, who is a producer, and he played the trumpet, wasn't a great trumpet player, wasn't a great singer, but he knew how to put all the ingredients together and make it work. He said, you need to meet Ron Huff. Now, I want you to listen to this pretty carefully. Our songs are pretty simple, I think, at the time. Probably still are. But I say to anybody who doesn't know anything about us, I thank God for Ron Huff because he took us uptown. Ron just passed away 4 or 5 years ago with Parkinson's. We didn't have any better friends than Ron and Donna Huff. But he took a lot of the songs that we were doing in person, and he added his magic to it. And then because of Gloria's reading background, a lot of the copy, or the idea for the copy, came from Gibran, the poet, the Midwestern poet, who wrote Jesus, the Son of God. And the approach to that was not so much from Jesus, but the people whose lives were affected by what he did. And you'll know it, you'll see it in the reading here tonight. And so he said, why don't you do this? Now, I'm here to be corrected that this is not right. I did music in a church Up until then, when I directed music in church, every Christmas and Easter we would do a new John Peterson musical. In fact, when we first started writing, this is, you young kids don't even know what I'm talking about here, but a mimeograph machine is where you stick in a master copy and run off copy. And I would do that, and I wouldn't put my name on it. And I would give it to the choir, and we would sing it. If they liked it, I told them I wrote it. If they didn't like it, I told them John Peterson wrote it. You know. But most churches would do a Christmas.
Absolutely.
We call them cantatas, right? Mm-hmm. And Easter cantata, okay, with an organ and a piano accompaniment. That was pretty much it. So I stand corrected, but I think Ron looked at this through some Broadway eyes and some pretty contemporary music for his day, and said, I think if we just twisted this a little bit, for instance, there's a little song in there that will be done tonight, God Gave the Song. We just had a simple chorus. You ask me why, my heart keeps singing. But he had heard a motif, I don't know, maybe in Broadway, that bum, 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 da, 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 da.
Carpenters, I think.
Yeah. Somebody said to Arthur Smith, the old songwriter, good friend of Bill Gaither, said, Arthur, I just wrote a new song. And Arthur didn't miss it. He played guitar too. He didn't miss a beat. He said, you did? What's it to the tune of? My grandson is getting his doctorate from the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston, and he is brilliant. And in his paper, he kept saying Beethoven was influenced by Mozart, somebody else was influenced. I said, does that mean copying? He said, yep. Not totally, but they put, so they put their thing to it. So my good friend Bob Benson said when he heard God Gave the Song, he had heard the original with just Bill, the musician. Then he heard it with Bill and Gloria's great lyrics and through his harmonic brain. And Bob Benson said, Bill, I've heard that new song, God Gave the Song. I think he gave more of that to Ron Huff than he really did to you.
How do you think that Alleluia, what difference did it make for you all? How did it change the trajectory of your life, career?
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Because up until then, we came out of Nashville, I think, I'm not talking about high church, but I'm talking about the larger churches. I really thought of it, it's nice, but it's that simple little country stuff, And shame on them. They should have dug a little farther and on the music or on the lyrics, the profound lyrics. Because let me give you a couple of Gloria's lyric ideas. I said, if you knew, you wouldn't want me. My scars are hidden by this face I wear. Ah, but he said, my child, my scars go deeper. It was love for you that put them there. I am loved. I am loved. I can risk loving you, for the one who knows me best loves me most. I am loved. You are loved. Won't you please take my hand? We are free to love each other. Everybody sing, we are loved. We are loved. And up until then, that was in the 80s, that was tough for men to say, I am loved, I am loved. And you could see it when we were singing it. A lot has happened since then. Psychology used to be way over here, and theology was way over here. But I think good theology comes together with real good psychology, and it works. Another lyric of Gloria says, I repent for moments I have spent recalling all the pain and failures of my past. I repent for dwelling on the things beyond my power to change, the chains that held me fast. I will go on. The past I leave behind. That's profound lyric. I can brag about that because I had nothing to do with it. I mean, Gloria did the lyrics. The second verse is, I give up the bitterness and hate, listen carefully, and blaming men and fate for all my discontent. The guilt and pain I empty from my cup so that God can fill it up with peace and sweet content. I will go on. The past I leave behind. Get on. Get in the rearview mirror. God forgives and he forgets. Accept it. Accept it.
Some of you will note that on Tuesday we sang Gloria's hymn, I Then Shall Live, as one who's been forgiven, which is an incredibly profound text, beautifully life-changing.
And I think it's a whole bit. First of all, in case you didn't know, I did not write the music. That's some character named Sibelius or somebody like that.
Yes.
But thank God for public domain. It's PD, so we had. But after I say that, I think she did a brilliant job of connecting relational things like, I'll dare to see another's point of view, and when relationships demand commitment, then I'll be there to care and follow through. Because there are other great lyrics to that. Be still my soul and know. That's all about God and the greatness of God. This is a relational lyric. This is a horizontal lyric that says, okay, yes, I was saved 2,000 years ago on a cross. But since then, here are things I have to wrestle with on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
One of the things that I think is another huge part of your legacy is the whole homecoming phenomenon.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that got started and how it developed and how did that happen? What's the story there?
First of all, I grew up, not all the way, but most of the way I grew up. I thought that would be funnier than what it was, but I grew up in Indiana, and my first kind of music that got my attention was a four-part male harmony. In fact, the Society for the Preservation of Barbershop Music made the vocal band an honorary member because there's something about the harmony. And then Elvis came along in 54, 55, 56, and rock and roll came along, and it's basically about melody and a strong personality out front. The barbershop groups are so great. You take those voices out from a singular perspective, they're not great voices, but man, when they come together, they really blend. So I grew up turning on the radio and hearing that, and that got my attention. Country for me in the 50s was just too nasal, too country. I didn't quite understand that. Now it's grown into something else. But the vocal band at that time, Mark Lowry and David, and no, it wasn't David. I think Terry was with. Dave is going to be here tomorrow night. David
yes,
Phelps.
That's right.
Yeah. Tell him to make sure he sings 2 or 3 of our copyrights, would you?
All right, we'll tell him.
I then shall live. No. But you talk about a character. David's a real great talent. Probably one of the best vocal students I ever had. Now that is a joke, okay? So you tell him tomorrow night. Bill said. I was going to say something. He said, so we said, the trio had its day. Artists usually get 10 years if they're lucky, 12 years. Running backs, I just told, Todd and I were talking, only get about 3 years, 3 or 4 years. But I talked to an artist. Now this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. You're not going to like this. But when there's a younger kid coming along with some new sounds that somebody's not heard, it's happened from the beginning. But we were all influenced by some of these pioneers in the past. And we said, wouldn't it be great to get in a room and just for the fun of it. And we did an old Stamps Baxter tune, living below in this old sinful world, hardly a comfort can afford, but when my soul needs manna from above, where can I go but to the Lord? We wanted to do a 4-minute song, make a video out of it, and see if we could get it played. And after we had done the song, we brought in some fried chicken, because those folks are good eaters. And then we took a picture around the piano, and Mylon Lefebvre's mother started playing. And they started singing, and the harmony started happening. It was very spontaneous. And the company was going to throw, it was a 3 or 4 hour praise and worship session, telling stories, testimonies. It was beautiful. And the company was going to, I said, what are you going to do the rest of that? Because I saw some of the rough stuff. I said, oh, we're just going to throw it away. And so I put together about an hour, not realizing that there were a whole bunch of people out there who had been affected by that same music. And that was amazing. That was in '91. And last I heard, there are over 40 million of those copies out there. It's pretty amazing. That's another God thing. The hymns for the family of God with your dad, Steve, was what I call a God thing. And we just happened to be there at the right time, in the right place. Other questions? Were you going to ask a question? You look very serious there about it. The one two rows behind with the glasses on that's saying no. Okay, no. Okay.
Well, we're getting kind of close to our ending time. We want to close with Bill leading us in a song of his choosing. So, your time to go to the piano.
Now keep in mind, all you keyboard players, this is not the greatest keyboard player in the world. But you want to do Because He Lives, or you want to do something about the name, or what?
Why don't you put them both together?
Okay. Sing it. Because Do you know gentle shepherd, come and for we to find our way. Gentle shepherd, gentle. Come and feed us, come and for we need from day to day. There's no other, there's no who can help us? Who can help us face another day? Sing it. Gentle, come and lead us. To help us find, to just do that last line, gentle shepherd, come and lead us. For we need you to do, of course, I am loved, I am loved, I can risk loving you, for the one who knows me best, loves me most. I am loved, I am loved, you are loved, you are loved. Won't you please take my hand? We are free to love each other. Randall, we wrote that because from a psychological standpoint, again, I think good psychology is good theology. And so every night, when we're out with the trio or the vocal band, we'd sing that, no, it's trio, and we'd say, sing along with us, sing along with us. And we'd say, now that you know it, sing it again. Then I would say something that really bugs me when I'm sitting out there. I would say, take the hand of your neighbor and sing it again. Now that's okay if the hand of your neighbor happens to be a beautiful wife that you've been with, but when you're next to hairy old Russ Taff, I mean, that is... So we were in Davenport, Iowa, and there were 3 couples who were in the Masonic Temple Auditorium. There were 3 couples sitting on the front row, and they looked like farmers, because I grew up on a farm. I know a farmer when I see one. And they were and they literally had rednecks from being out on the field. And the whole night, this one couple, big old guy, he was not happy about being there. He had his hands like this, looking up like the, Maud, why did you insist I come to this thing tonight? And so I'd say, take the hand of your neighbor. And his wife was there, and he was on the end by the aisle. He could have taken, and he was terrible spirit. He was really unhappy. And I thought I was pretty good. I was charming and telling stories, trying to get the people involved in their music, but not him. I mean, he looked like, that isn't fun. And we were this close. He was not back that far. We were this close. He was sitting there. So at intermission, we go back in the green room, and the musicians say, did you see that character down there? I say, yeah, you can't help but see him. Boy, he's an unhappy character. Yeah, I know. So this intermission, we come back and did a couple fun songs, and I said, in case you did not get that message, I want you to sing that chorus one more time. I am loved, I am loved, I can risk loving you. And he stood there. And then I said, sing it again. So this time I thought I didn't get it the first time. I said, put your arm around your neighbor. Terrible thing to do. Don't ever do that. Put your arm around your neighbor. And he just stood there. Gloria must have been 35, 36, 37, and if you've never seen a picture of her, she's just one beautiful girl. I told her yesterday, I said, you're the prettiest 84-year-old grandmother I ever seen. But she was a little bit of a fox at 35, 36, 37. But she's got a heart for God. And the guy was standing there. And if you know her, she gets an idea, she's going to sell it. You're going to own that idea before you go home. She goes down around him, or goes down by him. She puts his arm around him. It's a true story. Everybody puts her arm around him. Tears shot out. He quietly reached over for his wife's hand. So when she came back up on the platform, I said, you don't give up, do you? Well, if we believe this stuff, we'll do whatever it takes to say, this is a message that could change the world. And I believe the darker the night, the brighter the light, the dark. So let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And I've already told you more than I know, so I'm done, okay?
Thank you. What a delightful afternoon, filled with great memories and laughter. Wow. Wow.
Let me leave you with one story. This is called Dupuytren's contraction. And when the surgeon got ready to operate on it, I said, will this affect my piano playing? He thought for a little bit and he said, no, I've heard you play. I don't think it's going to.
Okay. I want to say this. I think if we were to raise our hands and say how many of you would like to have a personal conversation with Bill, I think that all of you would raise your hands. The reality is that you would love that, but that would wear Bill out. And it would be delightful for you, and I can't speak for Bill. So what we're going to do is not have some conversations with Bill, and we're all going to go eat dinner and let him have his dinner as well. Right. And that way it'll be a lot more fair for everybody. So is that a deal? Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
That was great.